Hi everyone, welcome to the academic panel of the Model Organization of Turkic States. I'm Azra, one of the Undersecretaries General of the OTS Committee, and will be serving as the moderator of this panel. We have a special guest and speaker, Mr. Turan Gafarlı. Thank you for joining us here today and allowing to utilize your profound knowledge of Turkic world and beyond. I won't be taking too much of your time with my speech. Firstly, I will introduce Mr. Turan Gafarlı and the background of his professional career to get to know him even better. And will inform you about our panel flow. But before all that, I want to give you a little information about why we have chosen this committee. Our primary goal of simulating the OTS is to introduce the Turkic world and its progressive worldwide potential to the young minds like you by events like MUN. And it is an essential magnitude for us to ensure that the delegates get a new perspective on the current position of Turkic states and their future potential. So as the academic team, we are working on these goals to achieve them all. Let's get to the main part of our panel, firstly by introducing Mr. Turan Gafarlı. He holds a Bachelor of Arts in History and Politics from Queen Mary University, and also later on he also worked at that university in various positions. Also has a Master of Arts in Transnational Studies from University College London. And during his internship, he has worked as permanent representative of Azerbaijan and president of the Parliamentary Assembly at the Council of Europe. And also he has worked at House of Lords during his internship. Besides these, he has taken roles and attended meetings and seminars of various bodies of the United Nations as the permanent representative to the United Nations Office and other international organizations in Geneva of Azerbaijan. He previously worked at Tereta World in different positions for 3 years, and now he is currently working as the advisor to the Secretary General at the Organization of Turkic States. And all aside from these, it is more than convincing to know that he's also a great mooner. He has attended and gotten rewarded by many MUNs from different countries and from many universities such as Harvard, Cambridge, Lyman, and etc. We are more than lucky and contented to have him and being able to benefit from his experiences and his knowledge with this panel by addressing our delegates about the Organization of Turkic States. And he also will be delivering a speech on our agenda, which is enhancing the economic cooperation among Turkic states and also in the international area through transport and trade corridors. The flow includes introduction to OTS, the actions taken by the organization to strengthen the economic relations, contribution of transport, the expectations of 2040 vision in this regard, and shortcomings that need to be addressed for what could be done in these agendas. And also more will be addressed comprising the importance of the countries that our delegates will represent during the panel by Mr. Gafarlı. Lastly, if you have any further questions during the panel, you can ask and write them down to me, and I'll ask in the end to Mr. Gafarlı. As I said, I don't want to take too much of your time, so I yield the floor to Mr. Gafarlı for his illustrative lecture.
Thank you very much, dear friends. Thank you very much for the invitation. First of all, I believe this is more than a simulation, because usually the simulation of Model United Nations are based on the assemblies and the bodies of the United Nations, which is normal, of course, and you're also doing that. However, simulating our organization is very, very important, not just for us, but for the youth as well, since you are getting more into the details, what we do in daily basis and what we are predicting for our future, for your future as well, including the other people from our member and observer states. So what is OTS, as we shorten it, Organization of Turkic States? It is intergovernmental organization of member and observer states. We have members, obviously, Turkey, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan as full members, 5 countries. And we have 2 observers, which do not have the same voting rights as member states, but still they are observers, so they observe and attend to the meetings. They are Hungary and Turkmenistan. So in this case, our organization's fundaments were laid back in 2009 with the Nakhchivan Agreement signed in Azerbaijan, and it brought up just 4 countries that time. There were just Turkey, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan as initiators of this initiative. So the main point is to bring the Turkic-speaking states all together. Now we call it not Turkic-speaking states, but Turkic states. But the council used to be built up as Cooperation Council of Turkic-speaking states. But it's not anymore. It's evolved from there to Turkic Council in the past decade. However, last year's summit was very decisive. By the end of October, in the beginning of November, it was already known last year that the council would have changed its name and get bigger. So in the heads of summit of heads of states in the November last year, presidents of the member countries decided to change the name of the council. So Turkic Council became Organization of Turkic States, and it means that the organization, as an organization, we became more important, more valid, more, I would say, inclusive. We have now better means to serve in a better decisions. We have more fields of cooperation that we cover than before. And obviously we have a new building which almost reflects our ideals and what we want to do. So basically, Organization of Turkic States cover all major fields of cooperation, from tourism to economy to trade to culture to, I would say, we have cooperation in media, in religion, in youth. We have youth exchange programs. We have so many cooperation fields that they all needs to be improved, that we can do our political decisions better, because even if there is a political will to change some things, first there needs to be a feasible infrastructure to change the things, to create funds, to create I would say transport projects, to change our textbooks in schools. It's all in our jurisdiction, and we are the executive, I would say not executive, but implementive body of the Turkic states, which we gain our directives from our executive body, which will simulate in the conference, which is the summit of the heads of states, that they come together and they decide. So 5 presidents of member countries or heads of states, their signature, common signature, decides what we do. So as a secretariat, we are the implementive body. We are trying to implement what they decided in their meetings. And obviously, we do have another important body, which is Council of Foreign Ministers, which consists of the exact same countries, but the foreign ministers' attendance. So they're also deciding on the technical issues. And we also have what we call SOC, Senior Official Officers Committee, which are senior officers from each Ministries of Foreign Affairs, which are also dealing with the technical issues. But the main issues are being decided in the very top by the presidents and the prime minister, if there is, in one of our countries. So that's kind of summary. What we do, why we exist, and what we cover. In the future, there are lots of good deeds that we are planning to do. We obviously have, you will be familiar in the following days, Turkic Vision 2040, which is our main document for the next 2 decades. And we have a shorter version of it, not shorter version, but I would say close targets to deal with. It is strategic targets for Turkic world 2022 and 2026. So for 4-year period, we also have short strategy to implement, and our long-term strategies, Turkic Vision 2040. And there you will see how deep the relations can go in the next 20 years, which will be your actually decade, and you will be most probably around your 30s. So you will be, I would say, mid or senior level executives in that time, and you will be responsible in the future. I mean, when I'm saying you, not just you personally, but your generation will be responsible what will come next after Turkic Vision 2040. So I can say that the ground is strong. There are obviously some problems that we are still dealing with. Nothing is pure simple, or nothing is going smooth every day. However, I would say there is a huge step compared to even 5 years ago. And there is a hope, first of all, that we didn't have 5 years ago. And there is a strong ground that is built for the next generations of, I would say, statesmen or young diplomats, or generally like the politicians, to build on it. So I would say we are safe now for having a solid steps for the next at least 20 years. I mean, if you have a specified direction you want me to go, you can ask me, Azra, so I can follow it.
You can talk about more about the enhancing the economic cooperations within the Turkic member states and also in the international area among like trade corridors and transportation corridors, like Trans-Caspian.
So the main thing for us, obviously, not just for us, for every union or every organization, it's economy. Because without economic ties, having good relations between the states is very difficult. Because even though if you consider that our member states are brotherly connected to each other, we are sharing the same language, we are sharing this common history, culture. However, things are not so simple. So we need to have more concrete bonds between us, which is economy, which is money, basically. So, and as you know, each state has their own interests. It goes for our member states as well. Even though we have close bonds, each member state of ours have its own economic interest, trade interest, which is very difficult sometimes to have a common say on. In generally different organizations, but in our organization it works much easier, I would say, compared to others. So in this case, economy is #1 priority for us, and under economy we have 2 main kind of helping subtopics, which are transport and trade. Transport and trade is a main direction for our economic, I would say, booster for our countries, because we lack a huge infrastructure between our states. Even though before the dissolution of Soviet Union, there were some roads, railroads, or like pipelines between the countries, especially in the Central Asia. The lack of it was that they were really ancient and they were really needed to be repaired and rebuilt. In the many countries, railroads are not working properly. There is a huge deficit in trade as well because of the infrastructure, lack of infrastructure. In Azerbaijan's case, it was repaired and helped by Turkey mostly in the beginning of 1990s, because Azerbaijan needed to sell its oil and gas. So Azerbaijan's infrastructure, I would say, more interconnected with the Western world because of oil and gas, and with Turkey as well. But in Central Asia, it's more difficult to follow in some cases because we have long distances, and there's obviously a natural barrier, which is the Caspian Sea. So here comes the Trans-Caspian kind of route, which is very important because, as you know, in the last 20 years, China is developing very fast, and they have a huge investments around the world under the name of their main project, Belt and Road Initiative. So Belt and Road Initiative is basically, I can say it in one sentence. It's standing on the grounds of the Go West policy of China, and it's basically say that as a China, we're going to sell our goods to the West. So that's simple. Belt and Road Initiative. So Belt and Road Initiative is planning of China on how to sell their products to the West. So they're building railways, they're building, I can say, ports, especially airports, seaports, and different infrastructure in the all countries of Eurasia, especially in Pakistan, in India, in Southeastern Asia countries, in the way the countries in Central Asia towards the West. So basically, they are just building different roads. And in this Belt and Road Initiative, there are three main roads. One is the North Corridor, which goes through the Russia. So that's the most used corridor to Europe because it's efficient. It's not fast. It's a long distance, but it's efficient, and it's proven its efficiency during the Soviet times as well. Even like 50 years ago, China was selling their goods through the Soviet Union. So that road is already working for many decades. So China is mainly using that road. And there's South Road as well, going through the Pakistan and the Indian Ocean towards the Arabian Peninsula, towards the Middle East, then to Turkey, through Iran sometimes, and going to Europe. So that's a South route. And China is investing heavily to that route because that route is also efficient, but without infrastructure. So that's why China at least bought like 10, 15 ports in Pakistan to supply their own goods. So where are we in this project? So there is also middle way. Middle way is going through the Central Asia from China, but there is obviously obstacle, Caspian Sea. And if you pass Caspian Sea, you're reaching Azerbaijani ports and then to Turkey and to West. So in this case, as you may already visualized it, the middle corridor is the shortest way to go to West. It has no barriers. The geography is very simple and plain in Central Asia. You can build railroads easily, even though there are some distances, but still it's much closer than Russia. Its climate is far easier than Siberia. So if you build railroads from China to Uzbekistan or Turkmenistan, you can ship the goods easily from Caspian Sea and unload it in Baku. And then from Azerbaijan, you can send it to Turkey and to Europe. So it's a very, very rich project, and we can gain billions, maybe billions of dollars in this project. And it's not just China, obviously. There are some goods of Kazakhstan or I would say Uzbekistan, some industrial goods or like wheat and food that Kazakhstan can send to Azerbaijan, Turkey, and then Europe. So there are lots of opportunities there. But what's the problem? Why are we not doing it? Because it's the most expensive road as well. Because there is no proper infrastructure. It requires billions of dollars to invest. And also it requires a new, I would say, tariffs in Caspian Sea. In Caspian Sea, if you want to imagine like this, you are owner of some company, you are like putting your goods to the truck, tır, and you're sending to Caspian ports to get it shipped towards the other side of the Caspian. It's very expensive to pass through the Caspian for trucks and the goods. So that's why, as Organization of Turkic States, we are trying to talk to our member states because, Caspian Sea is encircled by, I would say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 major states, Russia, Azerbaijan, Iran, Turkmenistan, and Kazakhstan. And 3 of those countries are our members and observers in Turkmenistan's case. So it's easy for us to negotiate. But in this case, states are gaining lots of money from this transport. So we need to tell them alternatives that they can gain money from the other sources so that they can implement these tariffs lower, and maybe middle corridor can become feasible in the next future. And I think we are reaching to that point. We have substantial talks about the middle corridor. We are in every document of ours about economy, we are mentioning the importance of Trans-Caspian route, and many countries in Europe are also very impressed with the opportunities of Trans-Caspian road. They also want that because they obviously everyone wants cheaper access to the goods coming from the east. So there are opportunities, but there are rivals as well. And I would say infrastructure is also very old, but it's all the problems that can be solved. So I don't see the major problem there. So yeah, this is summary of Trans-Caspian route, I would say.
There are some obstacles that block cooperation in transport area. What kind of projects are being implemented today, and what are the shortcomings of the affiliated projects?
So Trans-Caspian route is not the only obstacle in front of the this middle corridor. There are also like transport projects between Azerbaijan and Turkey. In a few years ago, the major project by the finance of the European Bank of Development and Infrastructure was built between Azerbaijan and Turkey through Georgia, as you may already heard, Baku-Tbilisi-Kars railroad project. It was very important project for the trains to go directly from Baku's ports to Istanbul and then to Europe. And that's how, with that project, Europe established another link from London to Beijing, non-stop train. As you may saw, like in some videos, that some help from Turkey to Afghanistan was also sent by this train route, and with a route via Iran. So there are lots of different routes, but Azerbaijan's, Georgia's, and Turkey's route made it shorten. So in the next maybe 5 years maximum, or even next year, because of the COVID, it's all went to 1-2 years later. But Baku-Tbilisi-Kars, through Baku-Tbilisi-Kars, you will be also available to go as a tourist as well. So if you go to Kars, you can get a train and you can go to Baku as a tourist as well. So it's a huge potential for tourism and social exchange too. So, but another major point was the Karabakh problem. For long years, for at least 30 years, we had a problem in Karabakh. Armenian invasion of Karabakh changed, I would say, many trajectories in the South Caucasus, because Azerbaijan lost its link to Turkey. As Azerbaijan loses its link to Turkey, whole Turkic world loses its link to Turkey, because everything is going through Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is the main transit country in this case, in between the Europe, Turkey, and Central Asia. So after successful war implemented 2 years ago by Azerbaijan, by the liberation of Karabakh, another project came to fore, and it's called Zengezur Corridor. So what Zengezur Corridor means? It means that direct link between Azerbaijan and mainland. It's autonomous part of Nakhchivan. So there is no land connection between Nakhchivan and Azerbaijan, let's say. So Zengezur Corridor would link two of them together, and there is already a train road from Turkey to Nakhchivan. So it would be connect all of those links, and there would be a solid link for the first time maybe in history from Turkey to Central Asia, to Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, without any kind of other countries interference. Now, it's a bit difficult to say that this project is going very well, because Azerbaijan and Armenia didn't sign peace agreement yet. But in the next few months, as far as I believe, there will be huge steps for the peace agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia. So there will be opportunities for Zengezur Corridor more. But there's already a signature between Azerbaijan and Iran in the last few months to implement alternative to Zengezur Corridor, to build something else, to build some else route going through Iran to Nakhchivan from Azerbaijan and connecting to Turkey. But obviously, it's good alternative, but still it's going through the Iran's mainland, which is not very, I would say, strategically feasible or even economically feasible for both countries. So I would say I would prefer those links go through the Armenian one. So because Armenia needs to be integrated to the processes as well. 30 years ago, not 30, but 25 years ago, when the first grounds for Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan oil pipeline was laid, Armenia lost huge money. because if Armenia didn't invaded Karabakh and lived peacefully with Azerbaijan, those pipelines would go through Armenia, not Georgia. It would be much cheaper for us, more beneficial for Armenia. We would live in peace and harmony and in wealth. But unfortunately, Armenia's invasion of Karabakh prevented all of this. And now I hope that Armenia will see how beneficial Zengezur corridor can be for them, and how what kind of trade and economic improvements it can bring to region. And after that, I believe trade roads would be more feasible. Another point for trade routes is trades by truck, because most of our trade between the Turkic states are being held by trucks, and obviously with the railroads. Railroads are political things, because there needs to be political and economic will to build railroads. It's a bit difficult thing to do, but obviously trucks are going and coming for last 30 years without any problems. But there were problem number one about the trucks, that was the money that they were paying in the customs. So an agreement was signed between Turkey and Uzbekistan in the last few months, which made trucks go through from Turkey to Uzbekistan and vice versa much easier. So that's why there were only about 200 trucks going from Uzbekistan to Turkey 5 years ago. But in 2021, it was how many? I would say it was more than 20,000. So huge increase in trucks, because the agreement lowered down the tariffs. So it became much easier to send trucks for and back. Obviously, trade improved as well. And another problem is that Caspian route. As you know, like the trucks are coming to Caspian, they need to get into the ships to go to the other side of Caspian and unload it there. But we call it the ro-ro prices. That thing, that process that the ships going through is called ro-ro, that carries the big ships, carries the trucks across the Caspian. So those ships are expensive, basically. It's very expensive. So we are currently asking our countries to lower the prices of these ro-ros, those ships, so that if there's a company, they want to send their goods to the other side of the Caspian, they would think that, yeah, it's cheaper to send, let's send. So our trade will be, I would say, boosted in this case. So two main issues I said here. First is prices. Prices needs to go down. And second problem is political problems that can be solved and will be solved in the next few years. The railroads and the buildings and everything. And rest of that is just bureaucratic measures. Otherwise, our states are actually wanting to increase the trade between themselves, especially Turkey wants to do that, because President Erdogan, in last of his few speeches, always said that the trade needs to increase. You know, trade volume is very low between the Turkic states, so it needs to be increased. So I say, inshallah, maybe why not? And we are working on it.
What are the effects and shortcomings on the affiliated projects like Turkic Investment Fund and Chamber of Commerce? What stage we are in, like the OTS, in implementing the Turkic Investment Fund?
So Turkic Investment Fund is the project born out of the idea that, you know, when you're doing the projects, like big projects, as railroads or airports or ports, these kind of things, first you need to get money from somewhere, right? Because these projects are not being made with a small amount of money. It requires billions of dollars. So usually, as I said before, for example, for Baku-Tbilisi-Kars railway project, our countries went to European banks to get the loans. They got the loans, but then the Turkic states thought that, why we don't have our own investment bank? You know, when we are required to do some projects between us, let's go to our own bank and get money from that investment bank. So it's a good idea. It's a good idea for sovereignty as well, for independence of the projects as well, because it would be alternative to Chinese banks as well. So Turkic Investment Fund idea born from there, and it's going okay. We're having few meetings about the Turkic Investment Fund in the last few weeks. We had a meeting just 3-4 days ago, I believe, last week. Technical issues of this matter are being talked. Initial money is spoken that around 200-500 million dollars, but it's obviously a small amount. It will, I believe, increase in the next few years. But yeah, it's a project that requires money basically. So sparing money for this type of projects is not very easy from the budgets of the countries, because countries have very different economic problems in themselves. So it requires political will as well to build up strong Turkic investment fund. But it's a good idea. It's a good idea, and it will be implemented soon. Another case, Turkic Chamber of Commerce. It's working fine. So basically, it's an idea to bring all the chambers of commerces of all countries together to work in cooperation. And it showed first substantial action after Karabakh War. So basically, chambers of commerces of all our member states said that they want to work, in the reconstruction of Karabakh. They want to get tenders. So basically, the companies said that please help us to get some construction projects to gain money, from reconstruction. So that's why Azerbaijan gave, I would say, priority to Turkish companies. There are Kazakhstan companies in Azerbaijan, in Karabakh, building up some schools, roads and everything. Turkish companies are building roads as well, building airports. 2 airports are being built by Turkish companies. So Chamber of Commerce is more of a lobbying kind of thing that helps the companies to increase their investments in between the countries. And it's not going nothing is going to perfect. Nothing is going perfect currently in our organization or in between the member states. However, it's in a good track. It's in improvement, and there is a legal basis for their actions. And that shows that if there will be another, I would say, tackle or like push up by the presidents of our countries, nothing is impossible. They can grow more and more and just become, I would say, more integrated themselves. But yeah, I can say one more major economic problem in between us. Actually, it's the most important thing, guys. So maybe you want to note that. It's the major issue is customs, like the customs, gümrükler. Because like customs are the main sources between the countries of trade. So trade is based on the tariffs and based on the money that you're paying to the countries when you're entering the goods to another country. So you're paying taxes basically. So as you may know, Turkey is inside the European Customs Union since 1996. So European Customs Union is basically bringing all the EU members and non-EU members of the European continent together, including Switzerland and Norway as well. So basically, Europe inside themselves are selling each other goods without customs fees. So Turkey is part of this. On the other side, there is a Eurasian Economic Union, which is almost similar to the European Customs Union as well in terms of customs. And 2 of our members, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, is member of Eurasian Economic Community. So it's a community led by Russia and has the ex-Soviet countries inside of it. So they have their own customs-free trade in between themselves. So Azerbaijan is not member neither of them, or Uzbekistan or Turkmenistan. So if you want to have like common customs in between these countries, it becomes almost impossible, because one is like aligned with other customs union, others are aligned with. So like getting rid of these customs borders in between all of us is very difficult thing to do. It's a #1 priority in economic area, but it's a very difficult thing to do. And it's technically impossible. For that to be implemented, all the countries need to get out from the customs unions that they are members of, which is a very, very huge political decision. And I would say in Turkic Vision 2040, it's written down by 2040, it should be done, customs union, at least in a not very mature way, but it needs to be done in the very first steps. But personally, if you ask me, it's the most difficult job to do, the customs union. And it's the #1 problem in front of all of our economic activities. So yeah, that's how it is.
What are the reactions of our other countries towards the OTS, and how the OTS is received in the international areas, or what kind of cooperations the OTS in with international organizations about economic and
So basically, organization is, I would say, very important for member countries and observer countries as well. We are always saying member countries, but there are two observers as well, especially Hungary. We have our observer country, Hungary, which is also a European Union member. And as you may know, we have our Budapest office as well, our European office. Secretariat is in Istanbul, but we have office in Budapest, which is dealing with our relations with Europe. So Hungary is very interested in this organization. Hungary is actually paying all the things for the European office. So they are actually investing to our cause with money. And I would say, yes, we have good relations with other international organizations. We are recognized by United Nations. Our job is being very, very closely observed by our lookalike organizations such as African Union. African Union is very interested in cooperation with us. We are cooperating with the European Union as well. We are cooperating with the different bodies of the United Nations, for example, WHO, right? World Health Organization. We signed a memorandum of agreement in the beginning of coronavirus pandemic. So we were actually the first international organization to convene a meeting in the level of heads of states in the world about the coronavirus pandemic, right after a few months after the coronavirus pandemic began. So in that meeting, in that online meeting, our presidents decided to help each other. So we have, you know, we also with a I would say a cooperation with World Health Organization, we also helped Africa. We sent vaccines, we sent medical equipment, and obviously we sent medical equipment and vaccines in between our member states as well. So that happened as well, this medical help between the countries. Another instance, World Trade Organization. World Trade Organization is also a really good partner of ours. Turkmenistan finally became observer state after 30 years. So it's very important for WTO as well. Other organizations, ASEAN, maybe you have heard about that. Asia's Economic Union. It looks the same as the European Union, but it's Asian version of it. So they have like Asian countries inside of them. So they are very interested in cooperation with us as well. What else? I would say we have good relations with almost all. Yeah, there is Islamic organization as well, Islamic Cooperation Organization, which is very respectful towards us. They're always inviting us on their events. And another important international organization is OSCE, Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. They are also very, very interested in the role of organization of Turkic states in general of security, peace, you know, conflict solving measures and everything. So yeah, we have pretty much good relations and improving relations with all major institutions around the world, because they know that we are the top authority in the Turkic world. There is no other equivalent of organization of us in the geography that we cover. So we are unique. We are the most important one, and most importantly, we are the best mechanism that yet to be produced in between the Turkic states in the whole history. Turkic states has never been so close in an organizational sense before, in an institutional way before. And the next step is always under question. But if you see the improvement of the organizations, you see that they were councils before, then they evolved to be organization, then they became unions. So we were Turkic Council once, now we are Organization of Turkic States, and in the future, maybe why not a Union of Turkic States? So it would be a huge step, but why not in the next few decades, I believe.
To lead and direct our delegates when writing resolution paper, what kind of decisions can the Council of Heads of States can make? Like, what are their powers? Like, are they able to establish an institution?
Yes, they can establish institution. They can, for example, they established institution of Organization of Turkic States, for example. They established us in their meeting, for example. And in their meetings, they established also Turkic Academy, which is in Kazakhstan, which is our sister organization, which is dealing with the education and education-related matters. So yeah, they have full power to establish institution. So if you guys, while you're debating, you want to establish some institution, go for it. If you see that there is a problematic area, and if the institution will be built that can solve it, go for it. So Turkic Investment Fund was also spoken in the heads of states summit, so they decided for it. So basically, the top executive, top decisive board is you guys, Council of Heads of States. So whatever you say, but you need to agree anonymously. You need to five heads of states of the member states. You need to decide together. So if five of you says yes, we want to make this, we want to build this, you can do it. Go for it, and you have full authority to do that as well. So if you agree on a common issue, you can do it, and then observer states like Hungary and Turkmenistan, what they can do, they can give substantial idea and just convince the others so they can implement it. So yeah, that's possible as well. For example, but they cannot vote. Turkmenistan and Hungary cannot vote for that resolution, but still they can say that we want this, we want that. In many instances, it happened. For example, in the past years, Hungary said that we want to establish an office in Budapest. No one said no. Everyone said yes, of course, why not? So everyone agreed on it, and they did it. So you can do that. While writing resolution, just be careful that the decisions that you make needs to be a bit real, you know, and a bit not bit, but away from the military issues, because our organization is not a military organization. We don't have common army, we don't have common police, we don't have common armed forces or anything like that. Yes, we have security issues in our agenda, that's true. We are really caring about the security measures and the border security and other stuff, but we don't have power to send army to somewhere to you know maybe to send peacekeepers. We don't have that. We are not deciding on the military issues. And also another issue is our member states and observer states are not interfering with the domestic issues of our states. Let's say, for example, if there is a coup in, I would say, Turkmenistan, another country of ours is not, you know, criticizing it, or like they are not just involving it. If there's an economic crisis in Uzbekistan, other states are not, you know, commenting on it, because our states are not commenting on each other's domestic policies or governments. You know, it's not our job to do, and they are very kind of careful and respectful towards each other's own policies and ideologies as well. So there are obviously ideological and political differences in between us. So yeah, in that grounds, you can do anything in the resolution. You can write and, you know, uh, check the papers that we produced before. You can check it. I believe the study guide will include it. So you can see what the decisions made. It may not seem bigger, so you can be, because you're not actual, obviously, presidents, you can be more, I would say, brave and get braver decisions, but within the limits of the law and the legal side of our organization, obviously.
We have a question in our chat box.
Yes.
Are there any cooperations with non-governmental organizations, if there is any?
Yes, big time, definitely. I mean, we have actually we will hold a meeting, I believe, in summer in between the NGOs of our member states. So it's a very important area. I can say one example, for example, from issues like you know, like for example the meeting of Kızılay's red crescents around our member and observer states. they already created a mechanism to help each other in the needs of time. So Red Crescent societies of all our member countries and Red Cross Society of Hungary came together to help each other in the necessary times. Also, kind of organizations like AFAD, and we have similar AFAD-like institutions in our other states as well, to help each other in the matters of, I would say, earthquakes or like other natural problems, environmental problems, and other NGOs as well, civil communities, civil societies. For example, the cooperation between the think tanks or like cooperation between the civil movements. Yes, we have that kind of mechanisms. We definitely work together, and our goal is to bring everyone together as an organization. Like if there is like, let's say Red Crescent, right? Red Crescent of Turkey, Türk Kızılayı. If there is that thing, and if there is a similar in all of our member states, we are trying to bring all of them together to work together. So yes, unlimited. If there is like Greenpeace like organization in all of our member states, yes, we definitely bring them together. So you can if you want, you can obviously debate about the NGOs and the role of them. And if you're debating economy, obviously you can speak with about that. Definitely for civil organizations.
We have another question. Hungary shows to about the interest that Hungary shows towards the OTS. As you stated, Hungary is part of the European Union and benefits well from that, but they're not in the Turkic region. I know that their roots are Turkic, but that interest cannot be just about being Turk. Can you explain the win-win policy?
So basically, Hungary's government for the last few years, and they obviously won the elections again. Viktor Orban and his party is very, very interested in the roots of Hungarians. So in his speech in the one of our council of heads of states meeting in Kazakhstan, in Kyrgyzstan 3 or 4 years ago, he said that Hungarians are coming from the Kipchak descent. So he said it himself. No one forced him to say that. So actually, Hungarian leader is believing that they are coming from the Turks. So in this substance, Hungary actually is spending lots of money on researching of Turkology. They built the biggest Turkology institute in Budapest, and they are sparing quite of money for that. But if you're asking about the political and practical motives of Hungary, Hungary is, for the last few years, is being a bit distant to Brussels, to the European Union itself, because European Union is going hard on Hungary, saying that it's going to authoritarianism and other reasons. And Hungary is always trying to create alternatives. That's why Hungary's relations with Russia is also good. And Hungary is turning towards the east. It wants Turkey to be its friend as well, and obviously other Turkic states as well. And that's why Hungary is very interested to have alternatives. And one of the alternatives is Organization of Turkic States. And Hungary is trying to develop its trade and economic relations with these countries as well. Hungary, for example, Hungarian companies also came to Karabakh to invest and to build. I mean, before Organization of Turkic States, I wouldn't think that Hungary and Azerbaijan had this close relationship. So actually, our organization made everyone's relations with Hungary better. So that's why Hungary is also interested to have more friends in the world. So in case of they lose their friends in Europe, they want to have other friends such as us to rely on, to have trade relations with. And yeah, so it's an alternative for them. And it's good for us as well, because we have now a friend inside the European Union.
We have another question. How guest countries of the committee like China, Russia, and also we have Afghanistan, Tajikistan, and so on, react to the work of the OTS?
So basically, these countries are all neighbors or like affiliated countries of our organization. So you do not have direct say in the decisions of the OTS, obviously, because you're not member or observer. However, you can comment on it. You can comment. You can check if it's in your own interests if it's relies on your interests. For example, our organization was also the first international organization which conveyed foreign ministers together on the issue of Afghanistan in the world. You know, in the world, our organization was the first one to make a meeting about Afghanistan on the level of foreign affairs ministers. So we are also trying to comment on the ongoings in our neighborhood as well. So we are very closely concerned about the issues in Afghanistan, because if something happens in Afghanistan or in Tajikistan, for example, it directly affects us as well. So, and you also have to say about us as well, because if we are saying, for example, middle corridor is starting from China and passes through Central Asian countries and going to the Europe. So European Union and China directly has a say about the middle corridor as well. And Russia as well here can say that, for example, it's not in our interest because you're creating alternative to our northern route, or Afghanistan can say, yes, we can benefit it from that as well. So it will be kind of a good initiative for us as well. Let's expand some roads to Afghanistan as well, make Afghanistan more stable, or Tajikistan can benefit from it. Other countries, the Western countries, the United States, or like Canada, or the European Union itself, they are also very interested in investing in these countries. They're also very interested in balancing the Russia's influence in this region. So they want Russia's influence to be decreased and Western influence to be increased. So think about how you can do that. What kind of projects can you offer us? What kind of projects can you say us that will be better than the Russia's one? Or what Russia can say that it will be better than Chinese or the Americans one or the Western one? So think about that, how these countries can affect our jobs or how our job can affect you. An organization of Turkish states for sure is not a rival or enemy of any of these countries, any of these blocks. Its only goal is to create cooperation, create wealth, create money, create better life standards for all of us. And obviously, there is ideological path that to bring us all together because we are sharing the same culture and language. But rather than that, there is no, I would say, negative vibes on the our activities or in our future projects. So everyone can contribute because it's a positive organization to build, to cooperate, not to have a negative union or like it's not a NATO alike to have like defensive structure just standing on defense. No, we are active. We are open to work with anyone who brings a solid project, let's say.
So they can suggest any projects that will affect and will be efficient for their countries and also for the Turkish state.
For sure. And even if you want, in resolution, you can create additional document, maybe have a mutual, there is a MOU, like mutual understanding agreements between the countries bilaterally. So you can maybe have like bilateral agreement between the organization and any other country here to have like, specific projects on. Yeah, but for sure. Yeah, just get involved. If there is a decision in the Council of Heads of States to build a railroad from Kazakhstan to Uzbekistan, another country can say easily that, okay, let's maybe make that railroad towards us as well, or this railroad, we don't like it. But say it and have it reasonable way. In what sense it's good or bad for you. So in that sense, you will also have a better understanding of the economy of the geography that we cover.
We have another question. On what issues memorandum of understanding could be signed among member states, especially on economic developments? Also, maybe you can explain what is memorandum of understanding. Maybe they don't know.
A memorandum of understanding is basically, as it's in the name, an understanding paper between the two countries or two organizations that you come together and you say that you are agreeing that these issues are important and you're going to respect each other's decisions on that. For example, I said before, our organization and WHO, World Health Organization, signed a memorandum of understanding, MOU, on the importance of coronavirus pandemic, and we should help each other. So it was a memorandum of understanding. We understand it's in the name. We understand each other and we agree on cooperation. So you can sign something like that as well, you know, in between yourself. And what was the first question?
On what issues memorandum of understandings could be signed among member states?
Yeah, I mean, any issues like if your topic is economy, you can sign about the economic, economic matters, or you can raise interest of your country, for example, Turkish investment fund, or you can say if there's a crisis in your own country, you can sign a memorandum for understanding of that. I mean, several. Just you can check like on the internet, like what are the examples of memorandum for understanding, and you will understand what it means. It's not very implementive document, but it's still puts on that two sides are understanding each other on the right terms. So yeah, just check it on the Google. You will see the examples and you will definitely understand what it means in detail.
There is a representative of European Union, and Hungary is a part of the European Union. Does European Union wants the Hungary to make bonds with Turkish states?
As I said before, Hungary's look towards us is to seek alternatives. I mean, we are not alternative to European Union for sure. I'm not speaking about the economic benefits or other things. It's not the same for sure. European Union is a huge economic power, and it's not about that. It's not about like Hungary will leave European Union and just be armed. It's not going to happen. And it's not about that. It's about ideological sense. It's about European Union sometimes says that Hungary is not doing the things that they want them to do. So that's why Hungary is not very pleased with Brussels. So here in your debate, representative of Europe is representing Brussels, which Hungary has not very good relationship with. And in that sense, I don't think that they need to fight, but they don't share exact same values sometimes as well. But do we but still Hungary is trying to increase its cooperation with us. So in this case, Hungary's views should not be exactly the same with the EU. I mean, in this debate, obviously. EU is representing Brussels. Hungary is representing itself. So it's different things.
There is a question about statistics, getting reliable sources. I will explain this because it asks, will we provide information on the study guide? There are not too many documents on statistics, but we have used Sastrix, one of the bodies of the OIC, to get the statistics and write on the study guide. So we have provided you some reliable sources in the study guide. And yeah, maybe Mr. Gafarlı, will you say anything about that?
I mean, it's always difficult to get exact numbers from the developing countries in all over the world, and all of our members and observers are developing states. So that's why I don't think that you will get every number that you require from internet. It's difficult sometimes even for us, but most important things here you can get it from internet. Just for example, if you want to see like trade numbers between Hungary and Azerbaijan, type it to Google, you will see. You can get it from open sources, and it's true numbers. You will get like the most traded goods as well, what they sold, what they bought. It's easily can be found in Google as well. In my personal research, I'm also like checking from there. And if there is required like more detailed things, we are just sending notes to our country's ministries of economies to get more detailed numbers. But sometimes, our trade relations are in some very low point that even they cannot get some numbers. Sometimes trade relations are being very low. For example, between Hungary and Kyrgyzstan, trade is very low. So there are no proper numbers. So yeah, it depends on the details and the openness. You can get it from Google, and mostly some websites are quite helpful. But CESRIC's numbers are good as well. So yeah.
Can you mention future members to the organization about like Cyprus, for example, or another countries that want to join the organization?
Well, it's our organization is actually reached its full limit, by the way, because it's organization of Turkic states. It's not organization of Central Asia, and that's why you need to have common, that bond that brings us together, which is already fulfilled by the members of the sovereign states. I mean, Turkic states in the world are just how many? I mean, 6, and if you include Cyprus, it's 7. So there is no more Turkic states in the world. So it's organization of Turkic states. So that's why we already have everyone. And Northern Cyprus cannot be member, but can be maybe observer in the future, because Northern Cyprus is not being recognized by any country except Turkey as a sovereign state. But in the future, it can be observer state, maybe, as it is in the OIC, in the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Northern Cyprus is observer, and all of our members are also members of the OIC. So I don't think if there will be any problem for Northern Cyprus to become observer in us as well, but they will not be members for sure. At least if they are not being recognized by the UN or the other countries, they will not be full members, but they will be observers most probably in the next few years. But other countries cannot be members, by the way. I mean, I'm not imagining, like, for example, South Korea applying for full membership and getting granted. It will not happen. But for example, maybe other countries which are interested can be observers in the future, but it depends on the political, instance of it's a very political issue.
What do you think about the response mechanism of the organization to the current crisis they face? Do you think it is sufficient?
For example, do you have example for like what type of?
Kazakhstan dealing with war and some inside problems.
As I said before, it's a bit difficult to decide common things about the domestic affairs of our member and observer states, and the most important problem is to get a common view on the matters that require to be answered. Like getting us one single response from all the member states is very difficult sometimes. For example, on Afghanistan issue, it was easy because all countries were concerned about Afghanistan, were concerned about the regime change there, concerned about the refugees and lives of the people. So it was easy for us to have a single say about it. In Kazakhstan, we also said that we are concerned about Kazakhstan, but it was a bit late, a few days later, because our member states wanted to observe and see what's going on actually, and wanted to get exact right information from Kazakhstan, and then we can react. So it takes sometimes time, but in the end, we are obviously giving a reaction for everything. But for example, in Ukraine issue, we didn't give a reaction because some of our member states are having like different decision in their heads. Some of them are just saying like, okay, we are neutral, we don't care, or we don't want to get involved. So we are just respecting that decision, and then we are not commenting on it. And many other organizations are doing the same. You will not see, for example, reaction of ASEAN to Ukrainian events or events in, for example, Karabakh, because simply they don't want to get involved. And for us, it's as simple as that as well. So it's a political decision, a practical one. And sometimes it's difficult to get all member states to say the same thing. But in most cases, we do.
Okay, we're coming to the end of the panel. Do you want to add anything more? Do you have anything to add? You can add it. And also, our delegates. If you have any further questions, you can write them down. If you don't, we will finish the session.
I just recommend you to be, I say, open and brave. You can debate the things that we cannot, because you are students basically, and you need to be creative on the issues, and you have more freedom to bend some rules. But just be careful on the regulative side. I'm not saying it's in the sense of freedom of speech. Obviously, you are more than free to discuss anything. But as an example of the military involvement, for example, we cannot do that. So as an organizations, we don't do that. So for you to speak, for example, about any type of military action in your simulation would be unnecessary, would be just a loss of time. And it's just an example. I'm not saying you're going to debate about military thing, but it's just an example. So just learn that what our organization can do or cannot do in a legal terms, and then you can debate on it. But obviously, I'm expecting a really interesting talks, because you have United States or China or Russia and members and everyone, Armenia under the same roof, debating the issues that we debate. So in a real world, it will be really interesting to have this type of event. I think it's not very possible, because it still have a time to mature, but it will be really cool to have all you guys, like actual what you represent in the same room, and to see what they're actually thinking about us. So it will be really interesting. And I think your simulation will be really interesting as well. And you will have really different topics to speak about. Your major topic is economy for sure, but we need really good creative ideas in economy as well. And I think you're more than capable of thinking out of the box, where I'm always saying this, like most of our statesmen, our bureaucracy is old. It's all elites. Its average age is most probably 50 plus. So your generation will be the decision makers, the guys who are deciding right now, the heads of states or like the bureaucrats or diplomats are actually doing it for you. So it's your turn to say something that you actually want, because they don't know exactly all the times what you actually want. So we don't want to hear like what you actually expect from the future as well, and what you are thinking. For example, about technologies, you can put some solution in the resolution, like a technological solution for our problems. I said what our problems are, and it will be more than welcome. It will be fantastic actually to hear that, because sometimes our decision makers cannot think the way that you think or I think, and that's why we exist, the youth generally. That's why you're doing this, to be more brave, to be more, I would say, uh, open and progressive in this sense. So I wish you all the best and all the best of luck as well. And I'm very, very confident that you will have a fantastic debate, or at least a fantastic opportunity to even think about these issues, which will be very, very on agenda in the next few years.
I think we don't have any further questions. So thank you for joining us today, Mr. Gafarlı. We cannot express our gratitude enough. We are more than honored and contented to have you as our guest and speaker in this panel. Yes, thank you for allowing us to utilize and benefit from your knowledge and experiences of Turkey growth.
Thank you very much for inviting once again.
You're welcome, of course. So we are ending the session.
Have a good night.
Yes, we will have a good night.